I just flew across the country. I'm in Tampa. I haven't eaten anything today. I'm in a bad mood. Let's talk about the 49ers. What's up? Welcome to the coaches meeting. That's the coach. I'm Grant Cohn. I'm in an Airbnb in Tampa. Tampa seems nice so far. I've been here for an hour. It's a really nice city. Going to explore it later tonight. And I'm going to cover a game here. Coach, how are you?
Pretty good, Grant.
Pretty good, huh?
Yeah, man. Feeling good. How are you?
I'm good. Did you see the injury report today?
No, I didn't get a chance to. I know right now that there's a possibility that Malik Mustapha may not be able to go this week. So there's a difference with bringing in Sean Gibson. You know, at first you thought he was coming in as a pace horse, maybe somebody that would be able to get the guys some veteran leadership, be able to instill some of that championship DNA that they had from last season with some of the young guys. But now you're starting to see that they actually brought him on because he may actually need to get on the field. So as far as the injury report is concerned, we also have notwithstanding Christian McCaffrey is back. So that's something that we've also noticed on the injury report. But right now, those are the two biggest ones that stick out to me. Oh, and of course, how can I forget Juwan Jennings? So right now, those are kind of like my big three.
Well, there's another one. There's Nicholas J. Bosa. He has a hip injury, and he's listed as questionable. Kyle Shanahan was asked about it today, and he said that Bosa was very limited during this week's practices. Yesterday, he apparently injured his hip on Wednesday in practice. Hip pointer. You ever had a hip pointer before?
Never.
You know what a hip pointer is?
Yes, definitely. It's a very painful injury, but I definitely haven't had a hip pointer before. No.
Okay, so he got one on Wednesday. I saw him at practice on Thursday. He's going through individual drills. You've seen practices before. I mean, you've played football at a high level. Individual drills, I mean, they're grueling because you have to do them at 100% speed, but there's no contact.
Effort.
There's effort, but there's no contact. And like these professional athletes, they can do it in their sleep. He sort of, I don't know if he tapped out midway, but he left the field midway through individual drills and walked off under his own power. He wasn't limping or anything. He just walked off into the weight room, and I never saw him again. So when Kyle says he was extremely limited, I mean, to me, it looked like he didn't make it through individual drills on Thursday. So we can't predict whether he's going to play or not. But how important is Bosa in this game? Like, if he were to go down early or not play at all, how much would that change things?
I mean, it would definitely change things. Right now, you're looking at Gadecki as their right tackle. We know that usually that's where Nick Bosa lines up. You look at what they're going to be starting at with right tackle at Luke Gadecki. He's not really that good of an offensive guard, ranked 62 grade on PFF. Pretty good on, pretty middling on pass protection at a 70.6 grade, but run blocking very bad at a 58.6 grade. You look at a Nick Bosa being able to play against a guy like that. As a plus for us, especially with the anemic start that he's had as far as stats are concerned. One thing that I will tell you is that it's two-pronged, the way I look at it. You look at Nick Bosa in practice and you say, all right, can he get through individuals? Now, like you said, yeah, individuals are hard to get through. Definitely looking at, because individual periods in practice are more about 90% about effort, technique, making sure that you cover the little things, crossing all the T's and dotting all the I's before you get to quote unquote real football. And if he couldn't get through that, which is more of a semi-intermediate to preliminary stage of practice versus actually going through team, that's something to be concerned about. But then on the flip side, you could look at it as he understands his worth to the defense. Not only does he, but so does Coach Kasarik and so does Kyle Shanahan. And he can put himself in a position where he knows how to gauge his body. I mean, there's no athlete on the 49ers that you could pick other than Nick Bosa as far as being a self-motivated guy who knows exactly how to get prepared for an NFL season. He knows his body, right? Coming back as fast as he did from multiple injuries, serious injuries. So with him being able to tap himself out, so to speak, by what your comments were from seeing what he did in practice. You could see himself kind of shutting himself down and understanding his worth, right? Saying like, hey, it's not that I'm done, but if we keep fooling around, there's a tank on this, right? So if you want me around for Sunday at 1:00 in Tampa, maybe let's calm down on this stage of football. Now, also, one thing that is a common denominator with both of those scenarios is he is pacing, right? There is something there where he's not necessarily giving out his full exertion. So it's something to look at. Definitely, the Niners are not foreign to giving us surprises on game day about guys who are starting or who are playing. But it's just something to look at. But you could look at it you could look at it in two different ways. Is basically what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, look, he may play in this game, but I think it's pretty clear he's not 100% healthy. He was limited for Friday's walkthrough. So we'll see if he can make it through. We'll see if he has his typical snap share. We'll see what he does as a pass rusher. I mean, he's been sort of coming close, but not quite getting there when he's 100% healthy. It seems to me like the Niners pass rush this year is Bosa and the Bosettes. I mean, it's Bosa and Sam O. It's Bosa and God knows. And if he's not himself, man, that team doesn't have the receivers, but they have a good offensive line. They have a good quarterback. If he has time, it'd be a tough game.
They still need him regardless. It could be Bosa and the Bosettes, and I understand that narrative, but at the same time, what are they without him? I shudder to think, right?
That's what I'm saying.
So right now, you can look at it from a standpoint of what can Nick Bosa give you in the term of sexy stats, right? Sacks, pressures, what he did last year. But one thing about it is that Nick Bosa is somebody that can be utilized in all assets of football. So it's not just the high flashy stuff where, hey, if the defensive line has the depth, we have somebody opposite him on the other side where the offensive line can't tilt, they can't shift, they can't fan over to him, they can't double team him, they can't chip him, right? If you get that, yeah, then you're going to see what Nick Bosa can do just playing football, right, with one man in front of him. But when you don't have a defensive line that has all of its parts, when you don't have another edge rusher that's at least adequate to what Nick Bosa can do, then you're going to have to be able to look for what Nick Bosa can give you in the film. Right? You're going to have to look at him, what he can give you in the run game, what he can give you in filling and keeping contained, right? You got to be able to understand the intricacies of what defensive football gives you that he can't really get to the sexy stats because we don't necessarily have an adequate defensive line across the board. So right now, there's other ways to look for his worth rather than the big numbers.
Good call. Dave Barclays has been a hell of a day. Need you guys to lift me up. I need you to lift me up, Dave. I've had a hell of a day, but we can do it together. People helping people. Jewish guy says, Grant, did you look up Pat's day? Yes. I didn't listen to him, though, because full disclosure, I am prejudiced against rappers who are from Canada. Full stop. I don't listen to him. I think you have to be from America. I think it's an American genre. But who am I to say? I'm just a white guy. Here's another one. Malik Mustapha, injured. Questionable. If he can't go and Tashawn Gibson has to start, is that bad?
Yeah. In some instances, like, coach love the kids. So for me, I feel like, I want the young guys to play. I feel like if he's young enough to play to show us, flashes of what the kid can be now, I always want him on the field, right? But for me, like I brought up before earlier in the show, I kind of got emotional. I got switched off emotionally, where I thought bringing him in was one way, but then once the guy got acquired and got brought into the team, he completely shifted the narrative with the injury of Malik Mustapha. Bringing in Tashawn Gibson, I looked at him, like I said before, as somebody that could bring in veteran leadership. He understands what the Niners have done. He's been in deep into the season with what the Niners have brought this defense. And for what Tashawn Gibson probably lacks in the run game, because he's going to struggle in the run game. For what he struggles with in the run game, he definitely is a ball hawk in the pass game, and the guy has veteran angles. He just knows where to go on the field, right? Sometimes the field looks like the two white hashes to other players, and then other players, the field looks like a 4-lane highway, and they know how to switch in between the slow lane, the speed lane, the pass spot. They know exactly where to go. Deshaun Gibson is one of those guys. He just is veteran. He knows where to go on the field. That much is an uptick with if he does play and Malik Mustapha can't go. But for me, it is worrisome because that means that we also lose another willing tackler and somebody who's dynamic and bringing that presence, that physicality of what the 49ers bring. So I am worried about it because I'd much rather have Malik Mustapha on the field and Deshaun Gibson coaching him up rather than the other way around.
Allow me to retort, as Samuel L. Jackson once said. I feel like this defense, I mean, we've seen Deshaun Gibson on the defense. He does well in it. He's different than Malik Mustapha. But I think having a vet who would communicate probably better than Mustapha could help the whole secondary. Because, and I'm not saying he's not communicating well. I don't know. I'm not on the field. But like the miscommunication on the CeeDee Lamb touchdown in the fourth quarter against I didn't see stuff like that when Gibson was out there. So I don't know. I mean, if Mustapha can't play, he's the first option. He should start. But if he can't go, I'm curious to see like what impact Gibson would have because he was always so good on the team. I mean, he wasn't so good, but he was extremely solid. Extremely solid.
Well, part of communication is also saying, stop, he's too fast. He's running past me. So that, it can go two different ways, man. I understand what talking.
How often did that happen to Deshaun, though? It happened in the Super Bowl.
It did a lot. And really, it's not even really the pass game. I mean, the biggest play of the game was on Deshaun, right? That kind of pivoted the entire game. But really, like I said, I'm not even really worried about that with Deshaun. I mean, unless he's in shape. There's that element too. He hasn't had a camp. He's coming in off the street. I don't care how many burpees and workouts you do that you can put on Instagram shorts. It's not real football. So he's got to be able to come in and show that he can actually run and play. I would trust that the Niners have gotten that much done, which I know they will. That's a kind of ridiculous assertion. But for me, it's really the run game. We're not good. We're soft in the run game, particularly from D tackle to DN. And another thing about it is that I love what Fred Warner brings to us, but he's taken a lot of physicality. There's been a couple of times where Fred Warner has actually come out and we had to kind of like hold our breath to see if he would get back in the games. So for me, I think that having a guy, I want to draw syntax to what I'm saying. I'm not kind of going off the rails. What I'm saying is that guys like Malik Mustapha help preserve players like Fred Warner, right? Guys where, hey, I'm going to be in the run game. I'm going to fill my gap. But a guy that I know is going to fly down into the box, kind of sacrifice his body, be that force contributor, that allows me to just kind of do my job in the run game versus really go all out in the pass game where I know I'm really needed, right? Versus where now you got Gip in there and it's like, oh my God, it's got to be me. It's gonna be me. Like you got to do it. So like my biggest thing is just another contributor to the defense means that there's another wrinkle, which means that they're going to have to play again. They're going to have to find another way how to play with each other. So I don't like it, but you got to do what you got to do.
Speaking of in sync, in Tampa, okay, I don't know what Tampa's famous for, but Orlando's close by, and all the boy bands are from there. Like, the Bay has rap, DC has go-go, and Orlando has NSYNC and the Backstreet Boys and O-Town.
It's really nice.
It's really nice. Just wanted to point that out there. Jewish guy says he's a creative wordsmith, talks the most ish, gets in people's heads, a real Grant Cohn. If you want to be positive, look up his compliment battle. Okay, I will look up Pat Stay's compliment battle. That sounds like something a Canadian could pull off. I'm sorry. I grew up watching South Park. Dave Barclay says...
He's a K-Dot fan.
Who's that?
He's a fan of K-Dot.
Okay. Dave Barclay says, who has lived up to their contract? 54. Who else?
King of the Dot. Sorry, not K-Dot.
Okay.
Go ahead.
85 has lived up to his contract.
Who else has lived up to their contract?
71 until this year.
Hold on. Wait, I was just about to say that. There's a lot of guys that you could easily say have lived up to their contract, but most of them dumped their contract and got re-upped for guaranteed money. So if you want to look at, that's an interesting topic. Like if you want to look at who has lived up to their contract versus their new money, right? That's kind of like the danger that they pose. So Trent Williams was living up to his contract until he got guaranteed money. Now, based off of what you've seen thus far, would you say Trent Williams is living up to his contract?
No.
Exactly. With Christian McCaffrey, up until this moment, if he would not have got a new deal, now that he has a new deal based on this money, has he lived up to his contract?
No.
Brandon Ayuk.
No.
Come on, man. Right.
Juwan Jennings was on the
Jennings
has
Colton McKivitz has lived up to his contract.
Hell yeah.
Jeopardy question. Now that's a Jeopardy question. I'll take 49ers who have lived up to their contract in 2024, Alex.
No,
for 800.
That's a Family Feud question. Colton McKivitz, they're like, good call. They're like, sorry, hasn't lived up. You don't watch Family Feud?
I do.
Okay. Josh White says, question for Coach, does Malik Mustapha have the skill set to be an effective blitzer? I feel like that's the most damaging part of losing Hufunga. Yeah,
I like his angles. One thing about him is that he's going to have to understand that bringing just physicality ain't enough. He's got to bring technique. He saw that against running against basically Patrick Mahomes. You sacrificing your body is not enough. And we love it. Malik, we love it. But you got to bring your feet. All right. You got to bring your near shoulder. You got to drive and run through the topic. And run through, not the topic, but the target. My biggest thing is that I think that for what Malik Mustapha has done in the league, on top of what we saw in college, I'm really impressed with what he can bring. I think he's a plus athlete. I agree. I think he can be a little bit better than what Huff can bring because, I don't know, Grant, tell me. I think he's a little faster than Huff. He moves faster than him.
Yeah, but Huff's better than him.
Yeah, well, a 3-year-old is older than an infant. Like, what does that mean? Like, all right, yeah, Huff is better than him, but Malik Mustapha literally has gains on his career.
I disagree with you. I think this defense has missed Huff since he's been out last year. Like,
well, what version of Huff?
The All-Pro version. I mean,
when have we seen that?
I thought he was doing pretty well last year before he went down. Like, he got the All-Pro nod in 2022. He gave up a bunch of touchdowns that year. In 2023, he didn't, and he was still getting turnovers. But people said he was having a down year. I don't know. I think he's one of their best playmakers, one of the most consistent playmakers, even though he's slow. But I could be wrong. Let me ask you about Deebo Samuel. Deebo's on the injury list. He's questionable with a rib/oblique. I would assume he's going to play. But the thing about a rib/oblique is that's the kind of injury that you could make worse, that you could exacerbate. So given that he's dealing with that, how do you feel like, can the Niners lean on him in this game?
100%. I mean, right now there's two elements of Deebo's game. There's what he brings as a pass catcher and what he brings as a runner. It's up to Kyle, and we also understand that he's one of Kyle's biggest targets, right? He loves getting Deebo the ball. There's ways that you can utilize Deebo, not even necessarily getting him the ball, but just having him on the field. Understanding there's ways that you can spread him out on the field to be able to be a decoy, decoy Samuel, if you will. But in my opinion, I think that all of that sounds nice if we were in the earlier parts of Deebo's career. I'm kind of taking this topic and I'm flipping it on his head. Deebo's older. He's not the same athlete. I think certain injuries really derail him from the skill set that Kyle expects from him. And an oblique injury and another injury on top of it, I mean, I don't know, right? As far as this season is concerned, I don't know if I've seen Deebo fight through an injury. Not to say that the injuries that he had weren't deemable to fight through, right? You know, if you got to sit, you got to sit. I'm not here to shame him. But at the same time, just about everything or just about every nick or bruise that Deebo has had this year, he's had to take time off. So he's kind of waned my confidence as far as being a reliable player on the offense, as far as injuries are concerned, because he has been a very physical player. But I see that physicality waning. I do. I don't necessarily see him being used as kind of like that battering ram or the easy button in Kyle's offense where he can just throw a now right or a now route or a quick screen to and just automatically generate not only fear, but physicality and yards on offense. So, in my opinion, I think that he will sit. There's a possibility that we'll get a good old 5 minutes before game time. This just in, Deebo Samuels right now is been downgraded to out right now, and Deebo will be on there with his chains on and probably the latest Niners paraphernalia team gear. So
that's what I'm saying. Like I feel like even if he does play, he's going to be Decoy Samuel, not Deebo Samuel.
He'll be
because I've broken a rib. I don't know if he has a broken rib, but I've broken a rib playing indoor soccer. That shit hurts so bad. It's so painful, and it's probably not broken, but it's a high level of pain, and Deebo seems like, I'm not going to say he has a low level pain tolerance because he's a football player and I weigh 170 pounds, but it seems like when he gets hurt, it's like, Deebo's really hurt. And then it's like, oh, he's back. So I don't know, but it's something to monitor. And I feel like if you're making a game plan, he has a messed up oblique/rib, maybe you give the ball to Christian, depending on how healthy Christian is. Again, if you're just tuning in, this is the coaches meeting powered by BetUS. That's the coach. I'm Grant Cohn. Christian McCaffrey is supposed to be good to go. Debo's a little hurt. Bosa's a little hurt. Christian's questionable, but that's just because they haven't activated him yet. They just haven't activated him.
Did I call him Deebo Samuels? Again,
oh, you
Garrett?
Always do. Yeah, and I never correct you because I think it's hilarious.
Sorry, Garrett.
No, don't apologize for that. If he wants to be referred to by the correct name, win a Super Bowl. I don't know. Okay, Christian McCaffrey. We don't know how healthy he really is. How will you go about trying to ascertain that fact?
His usage. One thing about it, and I hate to say this, is that we had a conversation on the 4-man front about, what will Kyle do when will Kyle finally wake up? It's just like the age-old question, right? And we already know, like, we tried to dress it up, but you came in and completely pile drive the topic and was like, no, he's not going to change. You know who Kyle Shanahan is. And really, I tend to believe you. Right now, in my opinion, there's two things. We already know a constant, right? When you start an experiment, you need a control. You need something that is not going to change. So you can ascertain the changes off of the two experiments that you're trying to run. Right now, the control in this experiment is Kyle Shanahan's ignorance, his pigheadedness. He will not change. So we know for a fact that this will always be true. So if Kyle Shanahan will not change, we understand that Christian McCaffrey will get 20-plus touches in this game against Tampa. It's built for it, right? And he will do that. However, if we do not have Christian McCaffrey having 20-plus touches, in my opinion, then that means that Kyle himself is forced to start packaging Christian, which means that he's not at 80% or 90%. He's more at 70%. And even Kyle, who, if he wanted to, he would just run the ball, Christian get an angle route, Christian get a China route, Christian go to the outside, throw a pass for 5 yards, but really it's down to Christian. All of the touches that we know he'll do. If he has to break away from that and we see him actually using Jordan Mason, a little bit of Isaac Arendo coming in, right, to try to fix a couple of things, then in my opinion, I think that that's not something that Kyle wants to do. I feel as though that if Kyle starts kind of using court running back by committee, it's more likely that Christian isn't necessarily as healthy as we expected him to be. So those are my two ways with it.
I feel you. I feel like I'm expecting him to be 100% healthy. I mean, he hasn't played football in a long time. It's not like he's gotten banged up. He's just had tendonitis and soreness. And from all accounts, the soreness hasn't been there in a while. So he should be fresh and ready to go. The question is, how cautious will they be? It's not about having him play through pain. That's not what they're asking him to do. It's okay, he hasn't felt pain in a week or whatever. He's been practicing for a week with no pain. Does that mean you're going to give him the green light to have 20 carries? Are you going to be cautious like you were the last 2 months? Or is the fact that Deebo's compromised and Bosa's compromised mean that you're going to say, hey, Christian, we need this game. You feel good, right? You want to win the game for us. That's scary. Because I don't know about you, but watching Christian the rest of the year, I'm kind of nervous. I don't want to watch him pop his Achilles on, you know what I mean? Like, be careful with this guy. You just took every precaution known to man for the last 3 months. Sort of stick with that theme, I would think, because it's bigger than just this game, this season.
I mean, you kind of talking out of both sides of your mouth now. Yesterday, you just said that Kyle's going to Kyle, essentially, right?
I'm not saying he should. I just think I know Kyle for who he is. I think he's going to do it.
So let's just
Christian feels good. You got to win the game. Play. That's what they're going to do. But like, if Christian pops his Achilles in the first quarter, like Kevin Durant did on the Warriors, I mean, like Kyle's going to come out crying at a post-game press conference. He'll be in tears.
Well, hold on. Now, I also believe that, there's obsolescence. Like, some things don't deserve to be like forever, right? Running backs don't last forever. Basically, my point is that if Christian McCaffrey ends up, like, God forbid, like incurring like a catastrophic injury, like re-injuring his Achilles or whatever, how much do you really blame Kyle for that? If it's happening in the first quarter, that means kind of like he was never going to be ready all season. True. There was never a time to really bring him back. He was going to get hurt anyway. Not to sound dogmatic about it.
You could argue like, man, he had 1 week of practice and you brought him back. What was the rush? Although going down hypotheticals that haven't happened yet.
That's cap. That's not the narrative. The narrative is that Christian McCaffrey himself is out here saying that he could have played against Dallas if he really wanted to, but they actually took the time to be precautious so he could be ready for Tampa. So if we're keeping the premise the same, if Christian was to hurt himself within the first half or the first quarter against Tampa Bay, with that narrative, they've already done what they can do to make sure this kid is okay. If he's not ready to go, they should have put him on IR. Now, if you want to blame Kyle for shutting him down, period, that's a discussion you can have. But if we're talking about playing, then we already know what the stakes are. Christian knows it too. So getting hurt is just kind of collateral damage, in my opinion.
But if he gets hurt in his first game back after just 4 practices, I guarantee a lot of people are going to be talking about, did he come back too soon? But that's hasn't happened yet. We don't necessarily have to go down that road just now. Let's check out BetUS, the sponsor of the show. Let's see the line for the game. Oh, it's 6.5 Niners. It was 5 a couple of days ago. I guess that's the Christian McCaffrey effect. 6.5 points. I don't want you to say yet what you think because we're going to get predictions in a little bit. I just wanted to point that out there. Let's look at some props. Coach of the year. I don't see Kyle on there. But the favorite is Andy Reid. No, it's Dan Quinn. Followed by Andy Reid. Who do you think's going to win?
Andy.
You know they're never going to give Andy Reid the coach of the year, even though he's the good coach.
They're not that good this year. They should. Andy should.
Yeah, that's true. I think that's a good call. They're not that good as opposed to the Lions, who are really good. Let's do another prop.
Well, Dan Quinn, the Commanders, you mean, right?
Dan Quinn. Oh, wow. I just had like a stroke or something. What was I thinking? Campbell.
Dan Campbell. So was it Dan Quinn or Dan Campbell?
That's a good question. Let me look. Coach of the year. Dan Quinn. Wow.
Commanders.
If Dan Quinn gets a coach of the year before Kyle Shanahan, that would hurt.
Well, the Commanders have an incredibly soft schedule, too. That's something that they're not really looking at. They haven't really played anybody or beat anybody for that matter. So there's that.
All right. What about defensive player of the year? Where is Warner? Plus 2,000. What do you think? TJ Watt's minus 150. It's always a pass rusher that gets it, right?
Yeah, I take Fred because we're cooked on defense this year. So he's like really earning his money.
I think you can make a good argument that he's, you know, who's not on this list? Oh, yes, he is. Bosa has better odds than Warner. Explain that.
Trump just won the presidency, bro.
Okay, that'll explain that one. Let's see if there's any more props.
You know, it's a better climate for pass rushers. You know, we feel better. Time. Yeah.
Time.
You know, it's a safer climate to express yourself, you know. So now I may be an MVP.
Offensive rookie. Where's Garendo? Where's Garendo?
Who is the offensive rookie this year? Is Neighbors up there? He got hurt though. Malik
Jaden
Neighbors
Daniels.
far and away.
Jaden Daniels.
Well, he's a QB. He looks really good. He fits very well here, by the way. Like,
yeah, he's no Garendo though.
He's fitting very well with the city.
He is.
Yeah, they love him here. We love him. He's an amazing. Yeah, he's an amazing guy.
Okay, I think those are some good ones. Let me put down $1 million on $50 on each one. I was gonna put down $1 million, but they hated on me, on your boy. I could win $1,000. Wow. Okay, cool. That's it. And what am I supposed to say? No, wait. Oh yeah, hold on. Go to BetUS TV and receive 150% bonus on your first 3 deposits up to $2,000 with code YouTube150. Okay. So they play a game in a couple of days. Let's go back and forth and list all the reasons we can brainstorm why the Niners will win. Reasons to think the Niners will win this game. Go, you first.
You fix your crawl. Reasons to think the Niners will?
Yeah.
But well, number one,
crawl, got it. Will win.
Yeah. Well, number one is they need it. At 4-4 right now, the biggest game that's coming up for us is the Rams. We just discussed it. The Niners have to win the division. Wild card is all but out of the question due to the earlier games that they've lost within the conference, within their conference. And for what it's worth, this is just another NFC opponent that they have to beat. Right now, the 49ers, they have bigger fish to fry coming up in the Packers, the Bills, the Bears, and also the Rams. If they don't actually get through like this quick slate, which is pretty much the easiest that it's going to get from here on out for the rest of the season, the next 2 weeks are it. We got Tampa and then we got Seattle. If they don't handle business now, then we could essentially be looking at the season being all but over within 14 days. So the stakes are high for the Niners, on top of the fact that they're rested. They're getting back Christian McCaffrey. So not only does this stand for the team to perform, but this also is kind of a referendum on Kyle. You know, Kyle's been kind of getting a little bit of bail. We've been shooting him bail on not really being tough on him because, hey, you got injuries, you're working on rookies, Brock Purdy's holding on to the ball, blah, 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 blah. You got CMC back. You need to perform. After a whole 10 days rest, coming back and playing these boys after 3 losses in a row, and they just lost to the Chiefs in a hard-fought game. If we go over to Tampa and lose, even the most stoutest 49ers fan is going to want heads to roll. So this one's all on us because we have a standard, and we got to keep it.
Tampa's a tough team, but they've lost 4 out of 5. And in these last 5 games, they've given up 33 points a game. 36, 27, 41, 31, 30. Now, they've been to 2 overtime games in that stretch, but 4 to 5. They lost to Atlanta twice in this stretch. So, tough team, solid team, well-coached team. Not a great team. They have a losing record. So, their defense in particular is pretty much garbage. The Niners absolutely should score 30 points in this game, if not 40. I mean, Christian McCaffrey's back. They could score 50 in this game. How about that?
That's a little overzealous, don't you think?
Well, yeah, absolutely. I wouldn't pick him to score 50, but like if Christian McCaffrey is the Christian McCaffrey of old, like they got, I mean, they don't have Brandon Ayuk, but they do have a lot.
Well, I'll try this one for size. The Christian McCaffrey of old was just a point in time. It wasn't necessarily a standard. It's not like we've seen this kid since a rookie and we understand what he can give us season in and season out. He is a traded player. All right. So he's only got so much juice left. That's the reality. That's not being pessimistic. That's just being honest. And he's coming in with an injury history. All right. So why is it that we're trying to treat the most, the rarest misnomer of his career as the normal, right? Why is the 400 touch year where he doesn't get hurt and we go to the Super Bowl and he's the offensive player of the game? Why is everybody trying to like gaslight into, well, we get the real Christian back? It's like, whoa. The real Christian was the best he's ever been in his career. Are you willing to really bank on the fact that that's what we're going to see coming in against Tampa? Or are you willing to understand that he's older? We have used him a lot. We've been incredibly lucky and blessed that he hasn't been hurt through the season that he played last year. But now, some of the things that we've seen earlier in his career with soft tissue and tendon injuries is now popping up. So now let's kind of tailor it back based off of his entire career, not just off of one great year that he had with us, right? You can't point to another year that Christian's had outside of the year that he had with us last year. It was the best season of his career. So I don't think that that's the old Christian. I just think that we caught a great player in his prime.
Yeah, I was just listing reasons to think that the Niners would beat the Bucs, but those are great points too. Those are excellent points too. I'm just looking at this Bucs team thinking like, I mean, they don't have their wide receivers. That goes without saying. Baker Mayfield missed most of the week with a toe injury. Their defense is absolute garbage. Am I missing anything? Like, there's got to be one more reason to think the Niners will win this game.
I'm not necessarily impressed with the Bucs coaching staff. I think Todd Bowles is a little bit pig-headed as far as process is concerned, a little too stale. They don't run the ball that well. Buckley and White, the other running backs that they're used more in the passing game than they are in the running game. I mean, there's a lot of disjointed pieces on this offense that they can get got. Right now, Kyle going against a defensive head coach, he should be able to outclass this guy. So we'll see. The biggest thing that I'll see right now is that the Niners are rested and the Bucs just look like a shell of themselves, especially after that game against the Chiefs. We almost should kind of shock and awe them within like the first couple of drives. We need to be the fresher team. I feel like the Niners will win in Niner fashion, especially if we try to get this one out of the way early. You know, these guys love to get a 2-point lead, a 2-score lead earlier in the first half and kind of coast it out for the rest of the game. So that's another reason why I feel like the Niners will win. They're fresh, and they're coming up against a battle team.
Yeah, that's another reason, right? The Niners are coming off a bye week. The Bucs played on Monday night. It was overtime. They're exhausted. Not that good. Okay, let's go reasons to think the Niners will lose.
Reasons I think the Niners will lose: the run game. I mean, one thing about the NFL is that it's always week to week. Teams are going to be able to point out what you do badly and to exploit it. That's what it is. It's not about what we do well. It's about what you can't do and what we have that can actually exploit that. The Niners, case in point, just went and traded for the great Khalil Davis, right, from the Houston Texans. For me, that's not really that's kind of burying the lead, in my opinion. The real shocker for me, or the real news to me, was them going after Simmons, the defensive tackle in Tennessee, and offering a first-round pick. That, to me, says desperation. That, to me, says that they know there's an issue in that spot, and they need to fill it with a real guy, not just depth, right? So, and if you're looking at me, to look at why the Niners will lose, it'll be Baker extending plays, being gritty, letting him take over the game, and letting a team that doesn't necessarily run the ball develop a run game against you. The Niners still haven't answered that question with being able to stop the run on defense, and they need to. So for me, stopping the run would be a huge thing because they're not really good, right? As far as weapons are concerned. They've lost Godwin, they've lost Mike Evans, but Cade Otton and that duo of running backs, if you go in there fucking around with them, you will lose, right? Because they're a nasty bunch that'll play 60 minutes.
Here's something else about Tampa I didn't realize. Look at the teams they've beaten this year: Detroit, Philly, Washington, like that. And that's back when they had their receivers, but like the Niners don't have any wins like that. And then look at the games they've lost: Kansas City in overtime, the Ravens, Atlanta twice.
Tough fought games, man.
Yeah, like they're not a pushover.
They're not a pushover
at all.
Yeah,
And their quarterback is an MVP candidate, unlike the Niners.
They're a 60-minute team. You know, one thing that I will say about them is that they're going to test the fact if we can close games. That's another thing. Another reason why the Niners might lose is that these guys know how to close games. Even in losses, they take teams to the brink. One thing about the Niners is that even in wins, we show that, like, yo, sometimes we kind of fuck around with the fuck around, bro. Like, necessarily don't know how to close games. Kyle gets a little too cute. We don't do things the right way. This is a team where they play literally down to the bitter end. You look at some of the games that we were even like slotted to win earlier in the season that we lost on. You look at our and you see how we definitely can struggle playing around with the Bucks. This is a team that, in my opinion, they almost beat the Chiefs. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, if they're healthy, they beat the Chiefs, right? Not even like all the way healthy. Like, give them one starter. You let them pick one starter, and I think they beat the Chiefs, right?
So, like if they had Mike Evans and not Chris Godwin, I agree.
Exactly. Or vice versa. Just give them Chris Godwin. Take out Mike Evans. I think you give them one guy. If they had something else, they beat the Chiefs. So one thing I will say, not to kind of like hijack the topic, but another reason why I think the Niners will win is that just having Christian McCaffrey on the field is going to be a ridiculous morale booster. Like, they are going to play fast. I'm telling you, you think that we've seen this offensive line play hard and this offense move a certain way. Wait till they get Christian McCaffrey on the field. He's really one of their strongest leaders, bro. There's a confidence in playing with, like, the guy, right? Everybody knows who the guy is. Once they get him on the field, there's going to be a little bit of swagger, like, all right, mess with us now. We got our man. And everybody's going to be playing hard to get Christian his yards. So I will say that as well. Not to kind of go back, but I did.
No, it's okay. That's all right. That we forgot that. Then that's like maybe the biggest point, because when we get down to our prediction, I'm probably going to go there. But one more thing before we get there, reasons to think the Niners will lose, because I want to have an exhaustive list. I actually think the Bucs present a tough challenge for the Niners' run defense. I know you don't think of the Bucs running very much, and they do throw to their running backs a lot, but they average 5.1 yards per carry. And it's not just the running backs. It's wide receivers on jet sweeps. It's Baker Mayfield scrambling. This Liam Cohn comes from the Rams. So did Kevin O'Connell. Kevin O'Connell and Sean McVay had success against the Niners this year. I think it's going to be a very balanced attack. They don't have their wide receivers. You're going to see a lot of runs and jet sweeps and screens. And that's exactly how the Chiefs beat them a couple of weeks ago. So they don't have to take shots. Like, even if they had Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, the Niners have Renardo Green and Diamador Lenore. Those are solid matchups for the Niners. But if you can get Tashawn Gibson one-on-one or Devondre Campbell one-on-one, you're in business. Or just make the Niners tackle. Just make them tackle. Just make them tackle.
That's sad, but it's the truth. This is a nasty bunch, right? One thing that I will say the Niners will get a reprieve in is that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are ranked 23rd in overall special teams. So congratulations. You get somebody that sucks as half as you do. So at least we don't have anybody that's going to embarrass us, right? But I will say is that we're going to kind of like bring all of this rhetoric down into like one singular point. The 49ers offense needs to take advantage of this Tampa Bay defense. That's it. Full stop. We can talk about all of what Tampa Bay brings on offense and the running backs and what Baker Mayfield can do and what Fred Warner and the defense can do. But the real mismatch of this game is our defense. It's our offense against this defense. Right. So it's on Kyle and these boys to get it going.
Like, the Bucs could do like a bend but don't break thing where it's like, all right, we're going to play too deep and you're going to run the ball and get into the red zone a lot, but you don't perform well in the red zone. And we're going to shut. Like, if the Niners have another one of those games where they're just kicking field goals, they did that against the Cardinals. They lost. So, I think those are the reasons. Now let's make a prediction. I think I know where you're leaning on this one. My dad picked the Bucs. It was bold. But I don't know how confident you're going to pick.
Very bold, low.
Yeah, I'm going Niners here. I feel like you said, just the morale boost of having Christian McCaffrey back, I think it's going to be a big deal, assuming he's Christian. So, picking the Niners.
I'm picking the Niners too. I mean, they're coming off rest. This is an anemic defense. They got a lot of injuries. Christian McCaffrey's coming back. You know, honestly, the biggest, I got a sneaky take, and I feel like this is like the disrespect take of the week. Put some respect. Hold on, dog. And I'm going to do this a little bit. On Jawan Jennings' name, dog. We need to put some respect on Jawan Jennings' name. Bro, if Jawan Jennings is able to come back in this game, he will be far and away the reason why we win this game, because he plays at one speed. He is obviously one of the toughest guys that we need on this offense that to come back, and he will give a lot of tenacity to what I might say is a very underperforming and young receiving core. So I think Jawan Jennings, man, is the guy.
I agree. And everyone knows, I've never given Jawan any respect. I'm his number one hater. Jawan, not good. No, I think he's great. And I think the offense actually will get better as he gets more involved. I think he's earned an increase in targets a long time ago, and he's finally going to get it. And now they have to lean on him, and let's see if he can stay healthy, because that's the one question with him so far.
Bet.
Kenny Davis, member for 12 months. Manhattan John. Grant, have you seen anything from the Niners facility that would indicate that Kyle is going to balance the run game so Mason and Garendo get playing time? I mean, I'm not at practice during team drills, but Kyle's been on the coach for this team for 8 years. You know him as well as I do. What do you think he's going to do, Manhattan John? Michael Mock says, congrats on 100K. Just noticed. Thank you very much, Michael. I appreciate it. On that note, I think the show is over. We're out of topics. I haven't eaten a damn thing all day. It's time for me to see what Tampa Bay has to offer. Coach, thank you very much.
Not a problem.
See you guys.